So today we are going to be looking at auto layout. Since we are familiar with Figma, let's just pick it up from auto layout. Now, what is auto layout? Just like the word says, auto layout, that's auto and layouts. So what does this mean? This means automatic layout. So auto layout simply means how can I create my layout in such a way that it's easy and automated. Managing these layouts is automated. It is not it's not too manual, right? And that's pretty much what auto layout is. Now, auto layout is not the same thing as what you have when you have a frame and you are seeing layout guide, right? In fact, this at the point, this used to be layout grid, right? Because auto layout now has a property called grid, so they had to change it to layout guide. So auto layout is not the same thing as a layout grid. Okay, so just to note that. Now, what is auto layout? So auto layout is a frame. Those are the things to note. Auto layout is a frame. Frames in Figma serves as containers. They hold things together, right? So when we want to create a design, we add a frame to it. We create a frame around it and say, okay, I want to use an iPhone 16 Pro, and it creates that frame for me. Now, just like this frame that can be adjusted, that can be stretched and everything, auto layout also serves as a frame. That means a container. However, because it's a special type of frame, it has its own properties. It has different properties. Okay. Now let's look at them one after the other. Now, when you have item like this and you have 3 cards or 3 items or 3 elements and they are not arranged, you can select all of these items, and on your right hand side, let me zoom this in a bit. Okay. On your right hand side, you see layouts. All right. So layout has 4 options. So you have the free form. The free form simply means there is no auto layout applied to it. We have auto layout vertical, auto layout horizontal, and grid. So how do we now make this item or any item an auto layout? To make an item an auto layout, you come to this place and say toggle auto layout. Or the easiest way is just to press Shift and A. Shift A. So Shift A gives you auto layout. Shift A, or this button, or you activate it with any of this. So if I click on this, it gives them individual auto layout. But to make it an auto layout, just click Shift A and everything. Now take note, it has a frame. You can see the name frame 94. So it gives you a frame. Now, what is the difference between this frame and using your frame tool to draw a frame? Now you know your frame tool, right? So frame tool to draw a rectangular frame. What's the difference between this? Now let's make this bigger, and I'm just going to duplicate these cards inside here. Okay. So we have two frames. One frame is an auto layout. The second frame is not. Now, they don't look different. Both of them has a name called frame. So what is different? First, if you come to your left-hand side, auto layout has a different type of icon on top of the frame. Right, it has a different type of icon that signifies the type of frame it is. So when you see something arranged, sometimes it can be vertical like this. So it just shows that it is an auto layout frame. Okay. But if you see it, hold on, if you see it as this hash, it is just a frame. But if you see it arranged, it is an auto layout. So that's the best difference between auto layout and a regular frame. Now, auto layout also has some properties that your frame doesn't have. Now, when I click on this auto layout, if you look at the right hand side, we have different properties. Right, we have the width, the height, the gap in between, and this panel that is alignment. Right, then we have the padding, the horizontal padding and the vertical padding. We are going to get into all of that. Right, however, when you click on your frame, you don't have that. Right, so that is also some of the options that auto layout gives you. Okay, so let's get rid of this. Now, to simplify it, let's use these boxes. Now, how can I add auto layout to it? Shift A. So Shift A gives me auto layout, and by default, it's already an auto layout. If you look at my screen, I have something here, but we're not going to go into that. It's just an AI part of auto layout that I can just stretch this, and AI is going to replace the contents for me. You can see E and F, but we're not going to touch that yet. Okay, now I've put them in auto layouts. What you can notice is that one, there are 4 elements and they are arranged A, B, C, D, E. I'll be the layout frame is being managed by Figma. Right, positions of these layouts. Now, if you see how they are, let me rename them. Let's say A, B, C, and D. Now, if you see how they are arranged, A, B, C, D. Right. Let me pop this out. Okay, so if you see how they arrange A, B, C, and D. Now, I want D to be the second. So normally you have to adjust this and move D and readjust. So automatic layout, auto layout just helps us. I can just select the D, and because it's horizontal, I'll just use my left keyboard to move it. My left key on my keyboard, right? I can move it anywhere, just swapping place with it automatically. Right, so that's how much auto layout can do for us. Now let's take a look at what we have in the settings of auto layouts. So first we have the type of auto layout. So we have freeform, we have vertical, horizontal, and grid. So freeform pretty much means no auto layout. So you convert it to a frame, so it doesn't have those properties of auto layout again. Right, let's go back to where it was. So vertical means from top to bottom. That means I want this layout to be top to bottom, right? So that is what vertical looks like. Now, when you create an auto layout in Figma, it's just try to guess what the layout already is. Is it vertical? Is it horizontal? And it creates the auto layout in that manner. Now, if these elements were arranged this way, they were arranged top to bottom, auto layout is going to create, when I select auto layout, it's going to be creating them as a vertical. So Shift A, so it creates it as vertical. But because when I did it earlier, they were horizontal, it created it as horizontal layout, right? So that's why you saw that as default. So if I want to switch it out, I want this layout to be vertical, I will just switch it here. If I want it to be horizontal, we'll switch it here. Now the last one is grid. We're also not going to touch that yet. If time permits, we'll get to grid. So grid also just creates a grid, but we'll get to it. So now what other things do we have possible? Now we have the width. So first, the width, we have a width called fixed and hog content. What does fixed mean? Fixed means I'm going to specify a width of this layout, of this auto layout. No matter what happens inside the content, don't go beyond this width. Now, what does that mean? That means if this content grows, you can see, let me clip this. You can see the content, let's say the content inside the auto layout grows. It is not, the auto layout itself is not going to adjust, right? It is just going to be cutting items off. Now, this is useful sometimes when we want to do, we'll still see it in application. It is sometimes useful. Now, the width can also be hog content. So hog content means I want you at every point in time to always accommodate whatever content is inside you as an auto layout, right? If I click on hog content, it accommodates everything inside. So if this reduces, the auto layout also reduces. If it increases, the auto layout also increases. So that is hog content. So the same thing applies for the height. So we have fixed height, we have hog content, and we have fill container, right? Okay, that's for now. I'm talking of the container itself, right? So for the container, we have just fixed and hog content. We're still going to get to this minimum height and maximum height. Now, fixed also does the same thing. If I say I want it fixed at 60, so you can see it cut off some part of it because it is fixed at 60. So if you stretch your auto layout, you're actually changing the fixed width. So if you stretch it, you are changing the height. If you stretch the width, you're also changing the width, right? So even if you have it as hog content, the moment you stretch your container, which is your auto layout frame, you have practically changed the width to a fixed width. So you can see, even though it was hog content earlier, the moment I stretch it, it is going to switch to fixed width. Okay. Now, auto layouts now gives the elements inside it. It gives the elements inside it some properties. Now, example of the property it gives it is, now when you are an auto layout, the element inside it has a property of fill container. Now, what does fill container mean? Fill container means that, let's use a button for an example. Okay, let's take it. Fill container means that I want you to, let me delete. Okay, let's make a copy of this. and delete. Remember, our auto layout is on all content. That's why it's here. So I want it to look something like this. Okay. So fill container means if I select the element and say fill container, it means I want you to take up as much space as in the width that is available. Just fill it to whatever space you can find. So whatever space you can find, fill yourself to that. So this is fill containers. You can see the element inside stretches and it fills up everything that is available. So that is a property of auto layout, right? So we will put it back to our content. We can have fixed width, right? Now, what if there are two elements in it, right? And we say fill, we select one and say fill container. What do you expect to happen? Remember, there are some rules that applies to auto layout containers. So we say fill container, you would think, okay, it's going to squash this one, but it's not, because this is broader. We're all in the same house. I'm not going to throw you outside because I'm giving priority to fill everywhere, right? So if we say fill container, it is going to acknowledge the other elements inside and also some other properties which I'm also going to touch on, right? So it is, like I said, going to take up the available space, whatever space is available for it. So in this case now, this space is not available. This gap you are seeing here is not available. Now let's go continue on with our properties. Now the next thing we have here is the gap, right? So this is the gap. Let's remove the vertical. Yeah. So this is the gap between the two elements, which is this space in between. Now we have two elements. Let's take this back to our content. And let's bring this also here. Let's make this our contents. Okay. Now the space between these elements, this one and this one, if you check, is 48, right? It is 48. If I increase this space, it remains 48. It remains 48. If I select this and check the space in between, it's still going to be 48. So no matter how much I stretch it, it's going to be 48. And that 48 is controlled by this gap, vertical gap, right? So if I say I want this gap to be 10, it is going to reduce the space between those elements. And if I also come back here and say, okay, I want this one to fill container, it is still going to just respect that 10. So that is the space that is being that the auto layout is following. Now, what does this space actually mean? To bring us to something called the box model. Box model. So in the box model, we have what is called the content, the padding, the border, and the margin. Let me put this here. Now, what is the content? In this case now, this A is the content, right? So think about your content as your house, as a house. Now, if you buy a plot of land and you want to build a house, let's say you've not yet fenced that house, then you build a house inside that plot of land. This is the house. And this house is, let's make it blue. Now, inside this house, There is now your compound, right? Let's say you have a compound. Let me just draw this with a pencil. You have a compound this big. Now, you naturally don't go and build your house at the fence, except you are living in Lagos, beside the fence of the house, right? There is usually a gap. So the gap between the house and the fence is called the padding, right? So the padding is the gap between your content or the element and the fence, right? So the spacing between your element and the fence is called the padding. Then the border itself is the fence. So let's say I add auto layout to this. Now, one of the things auto layout gives me is that compound, the ability to add that compound, which is the padding. You can see horizontal padding and vertical padding. So I can have this space inside my auto layout. That means I have a content and I have a space. Now, the edge of this is where the fence is, which can also be represented by a stroke. Let's say we have a 3-stroke here. Let's make it white. So you can see the padding and the border. So this is the border. Now the margin you don't see. So the margin in this case of the house is the space between your house and the next house. Again, except you are living in Lagos where all buildings are lumped together. So the space between your house and the next house is the margin. So let's say we also have another element here. Now this helps you understand when you are designing how to give elements breathing space, right? So if you have a padding and you have another element, there is a space here. Not every time. Sometimes elements come together. Sometimes you need to give them space. Sometimes they don't have borders, right? Sometimes they don't have borders, and sometimes they do, right? So you need to consider all of this when you are now finally creating a design. Okay, let's go back to our properties and that happens to, especially when you are designing buttons. I know a lot of you design buttons, like we're going to get to button anyway. So you've understood that part. Now let's move forward. Creating a button. Some may ask, why do we want to use auto layout to create a button? Auto layout is the best means of creating a button. But why do we want to use auto layout to create a button? Now, let's assume I want to use a rectangle to create a button. So this is a rectangle, and I wrote a text on it and say sign up. Now I place it perfectly and it looks like a button, right? Let's make it red and let's make it white. Now, very nice button. However, what if peradventure, we can even group it together and say Ctrl G. What if peradventure this sign up change to get your copy? Now you can see I'll have to start readjusting and start thinking about the space. Okay, I want it to have more space. If I add more space, I'll have to readjust again. And that is what auto layout simply solves for us. Right? Remember, to create an auto layout, we just click on Shift A. So it creates that box for me. Because auto layout is a frame, it can have a property of a fill. Right? So I can fill it with our red. Now, I was saying, some of us create buttons like this. And that was why I was explaining the border radius and the box model rather. Right? So because your box model simply is an explanation of what I just explained, the house, the padding, and the fence is an explanation of how to create your button. You should know that your button needs some room to breathe, right? So it boils down to what we have: horizontal padding. Horizontal padding means the space before the content on the left and on the right. Right. So if I give it on the horizontal padding of 20, so there's going to be 20 width before the fence, which is the edge of this button, and the text. So if I give it also 15, so we have a good button, right? Now, see what happens. If I just say sign up, you can see how the button is respecting the space I gave it and just following that same setting. So it's still going to be the same setting, 20, 15, 15. You can say 20, 20, 15, 15. So it's going to keep that setting. So no matter what you decide, you say join newsletter. We'll get here now. Now this is from the text. Yeah. So you say join our newsletter, it is still going to maintain that position, right? So we can give it a border radius is not an auto layout property actually. So we can say border radius of 12 or 8, and we have this. Okay. So no matter what, it can accommodate. Also, let's assume we won't have a frame on iPhone 16. Let's bring it here. Say we have this frame here, and this my button is inside this frame. But at every point in time, I want this button to be taking up the full width. So I can just say let's make this, let's put it in okay, let's have a frame that let's say we have a card here now, and this card has we're supposed to do this here, but let's do it here anyway. So this card has, let's say, an image. Let me reduce the fill. This card has an image. All right, I'm going to use this rectangle for an image, and this card is an auto layout. So I'm going to also bring this button inside. Now I want at every point in time this button, whatever this button is, to be a full width button, you can say. Now let's assume this container, this card now changes. Say we are now on a tablet, and on a tablet view, okay, let me duplicate it. So we are designing a tablet view now, and on a tablet view, the frame we have is wider. Let's say it is something like this, and I want to put my button. So because this button already has that property, you can see how it just adjusted to it. You can see how it just automatically adjusted. If this frame starts reducing, the button will also reduce. If it expands, the button will also expand. Simply because now we can't do with a rectangle, right? So because we already have that property of auto layout, that's why we're able to achieve that with the button. Okay. Now let's move one step further. Okay. Let's take questions. Do you have any questions so far? Any questions so far? Are we good? All right, cool. Okay. Now, we have 3 titles of 3 different sizes, right? Now, this is another feature we can do with auto layout. Now, there are 3 different titles or text with 3 different sizes. Now, I'm going to add them to an auto layout shift A, and you can see nothing changes. However, they are aligned to the middle. Now, this is the part for alignment now. So if you look at, we have top left align, top center, top right, right, center, and left. Then we have bottom left, bottom right, and center. Now, what does that mean? What do they mean? To explain that, let's say we have this frame. Now, this frame is an auto layout frame, okay? So it's an auto layout frame, and inside this frame, we just have one small rectangle. Now, let's make this rectangle red. Why am I liking red today? Okay. So, top left means I want it to be at the top left. Top center means I want it to come to the center. Top right means I want it to come to the right, left, center. So that is how it works. Now, it doesn't just apply to when you have only one element, right? Even if you have 2, you can still align it. You can say top right. So you can align elements accordingly. So if it is also this way, you can align. So that's where that comes in. Now, however, what we want is for them to be on a straight line. So let's assume I have a ruler here. You can see that ruler. Let's put it at the bottom, at the baseline of this big title. You can see the title 2 is not on the baseline. The title 1 is not on the baseline. But with auto layout, I can simply come to these settings. You can see auto layout settings and say align text baseline. So by the time I click on align text baseline, everything comes in place. So you can see they are all on the same baseline with the top one. So now this helps when you have multiple text that you're trying to put in an auto layout, right? So if it's disabled, you have it. Now, why are they even aligning this way? It's because of different sizes, right? So align text baseline picks the baseline of this text, picks the baseline of this, and picks the baseline of this and aligns it. And that's simply because we are using auto layout, and auto layout tries to understand what you're doing, understands what you want to do, and creates that for you. Now, another example is we have 3 icons like this. There can be anything, and we add auto layout shift A. Now, remember there is a gap between them. Now, that gap can actually be a negative gap, as you can see. Now, these things are overlapping. You can also still come to our auto layout setting and say, I want to swap. So what you have is this second one is on top of the third one. The third one is on top of the first one. The third one is on top of the second one. I want to swap it, right? So these are also some settings that we can see in auto layout. Then you can also have it already has a stroke, but you can also have a stroke that shows that, oh, this guy it's going to create, let me see if we can see that. So pretty much we can swap this says the last one should be on top. This one will say the first one should be on top. So this is on top of this, then this is on top of this. So if you've seen, where is this? Let's see. If you've seen some websites that I'm trying to see if it's here. Yes, it has something like this. So you can see how those elements, those icons are on top of each other. So this is what you can use to achieve that in the design. Okay. Now, the next thing is spacing. So spacing, if you see this element is just this is a navbar. This is a navbar. Yes, also on Instagram. Thank you. So this is the navbar, right? So if we look at this navbar, we can stretch it and nothing happens because it's not yet in auto layout. But to make it an auto layout, just select the navbar. It has the elements inside it and click Shift A and it becomes auto layout. Now, the property of this navbar is currently on hog. So you can see hog content. That means if I stretch it, it changes the width, right? But nothing is happening to the elements inside. Why? It's because of this spacing. This spacing that we call gap. So this is our layout gap. Trying to say, let it bring out the name. Yes, gap between objects. So because of this gap, so if I say, okay, let this gap be 30. Now, what if my frame that I'm putting this the frame I'm putting that menu is not up to 30? What happens, right? What if this frame is not as big as this? So you can see because the space is 37, it's not also responding. But with a layout, a gap of auto, so you can see auto. So you can switch to auto or you type auto and type auto. What does auto do? Auto simply looks at the space available and assign it across board. That means the space between this guy and this one, 36.9, is going to be the same with this one. It's going to be the same with this one. So it looks for the available space and adjusts everybody to fit the available space. So the wider it is, the wider the space between those elements. So that's auto. So if this tab reduces to this, the space is also going to reduce. Now, why is this important? Now, if we have a frame that has a couple of elements, and we say, let this, okay, first we need to make it auto layout, Shift A. Let this be auto, right? If the space reduces, what of when there's nothing, like they are now squashing together? We have a property in auto layout called wrap. So if you see it here at the right hand side, when I click on wrap, nothing happens. Why? Because at this point, the elements can still contain. But the point when it can't contain anymore, you can see it drops down to the next place, right? So wrap simply looks for the space right? If there's no longer space for it to, there's no space for the elements to stay again, instead of squashing them together, it drops down to the next space. So that is wrap. And you've seen that, let's say, hunger.com, and let's try and resize this browser. So can you see it? Now look at these elements. This one column, then this 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. By the time this screen gets small, it drops them down to the bottom, and this one fills this space. Right. And this one comes down and becomes 4 elements. Now we are still going to get there. So that is wrap. So wrap is, even though this thing is one container, by the time no space for it to take again, I want you to bring them to the bottom. So that's what happened there, right? So that is wrap. Now, another property of auto layout, like I said, is fill container. And let's give it a gap of 30. So fill container 30. Now with fill container, I can assign minimum width and maximum width. Minimum width is, remember, fill container says I want at every point in time this content should be growing or reducing. But sometimes, for instance, in that Conga example, I don't want it to go below a certain point. I don't want it to become smaller than a certain point. And that is where minimum width comes in. So minimum width applies to the elements inside the auto layout. So I can add a minimum width to this and say, I want this minimum width of, it is currently 5311. So I want a minimum width of 400. Now that is the minimum width. That means if this frame is reduced, it will not go below. It has gotten to the minimum width now, 400. If I select it now, you'll see it is 400. The frame is 400. You can see 400. But if I take it below 400, you can see that is where that wrap now comes in, because it doesn't want to go below 400 at any point in time. Now, I can also assign a maximum width, and the maximum width is going to say, I want it to be, let's say, maximum width of 600. Now, even though I know you are growing and you are allowed to grow, but don't grow beyond a certain width. So you can see it's growing, and at that point it stops. So if we have our gap as auto, this one will keep moving, and what we have as a minimum and maximum width will stop. So at this point, it will stop growing. So you can see it stopped reducing, and at this point it stops growing, right? And that is exactly what happens here. So if you look at this element, you can see it was reducing at a point, right? It's reducing, and when it could not reduce again, it dropped and still fill the container, right? So that's minimum and maximum width in auto layout. Now this, we use this, probably will still get into the practical usage of all of this. Okay, So finally, how do we use text in auto layout? Now, this is just a frame and everything just happens like that. So to add an auto layout, shift A. Now it's an auto layout, but because of the position, remember this position I told you. Okay, see it in the left and right, in the center. If this is growing, the text is also going to just stay in the center. However, let's assume we even have more text, right? We have more text. When it was just a frame, let's assume we have more text. See what happens. You can see I've added more text to it, but because it is a frame, not an auto layout, that text is just going beyond. So with auto layout, when we add this shift A, it allows the text to grow, right? While it is still keeping, let's give it a padding of. So no matter how long the text is going, the auto layout is also going to be growing with it, right? Now, if we assign this text a fill container property, what does this mean? This means, remember, auto layout has fill container, right? But we assign that fill container to a text. So that means this text will now be adjusting to the width of the container and be adjusting its height, right? So let's say you are creating a design for a blog post and you want the same content you will have here. You want it to fit into somewhere smaller, and you can simply just readjust it. So you can pretty much do that with auto layout. So auto layout helps you to manage your text easily, right? Helps you to manage your text easier. Now remember, one of the key things that is driving this is the fact that we have hog content on the height. Hog content. So that means when the width is reducing and the text is getting longer, the height has to still hug the content. Hug the content means you are adjusting yourself to the content. You want to hold the content tight. You don't want it to overflow. You don't want it to spill. You don't want it to crush, right? So that's what hug content simply means. So at every point in time where we're adjusting this, it is going to be hugging the content that is inside. Remember I said frames, auto layout, normal frame, group, they are all containers, right? So it is trying to just stay inside that container. Okay, so that's what that's how we can use that for text. Now, you can also have an auto layout inside another auto layout. What do I mean? These are different text, right? Different amount of text. So I can have, say, okay, these two things, I want it to be auto layout shift A, so it becomes a container. I want this to be an auto layout shift A. I want this to be an auto layout shift A. I want this to be an auto layout shift A. Now, there are 4 different contents now. But because you know how CV is, this is related to this, this is related to this, this is related to this, and this is related to this. We also want to create that relationship by grouping them. Remember I said auto layout is a container. So I want to put these two inside the same container, shift A. So that means this auto layout has another auto layout inside it. So we have an auto layout inside another auto layout. So we can do the same thing. Shift A, Shift A, Shift A. Okay. Now, with that also, we can even still add all of this. Let's say we want to manage the space between these elements. So instead of trying to adjust it one by one and say, okay, let's reduce the space, we can add all of them into another auto layout, Shift A, right? So we can manage the space. Okay, we want them to be spaced by 20, we want them to be spaced by 40. Anyhow we want it to be, we can manage that. Now, let me just show you an added bonus. You might not have it, so in case you don't see it, please don't be alarmed that your Figma is wrong. Sometimes you don't see it, sometimes. So if I have multiple auto layouts and I select all of them, that means I have multiple elements in an auto layout. I will see this, I don't know if it's a button I'll call it, or this dash, right? And it is called duplicate with new content. So it is an AI assisted auto layout duplication. So what does that mean? That means, let's say I want to fill this content with more of this job experience. I can simply click on it. You can see duplicate with new content and stretch. By the time I stretch it, it will replace that content with new content. So that's also an auto layout feature. Okay. Okay. So now with this, if this text reduces, nothing happens because it is not an auto layout. But if we add it to an auto layout, Shift A, okay, something is okay. Let's do this part. So these two, you can also put in an auto layout and group it together with this. So what we currently have now is a nest of auto layouts. So you can see an auto layout inside another auto layout inside an auto layout. So you have a nest of auto layouts. Now, if I make this card an auto layout, Shift A, I can simply manipulate how I want these elements to react, right? Because of the property of auto layout. So now I can say, okay, I want it to be centered, I want it to be in the left, I want it to be here. However, I can also say, I want this width to fill the container, right? So that means when I'm adjusting it, it is also adjusting. You can see, right? So that's pretty much the power of auto layout. And we're going to take a couple of examples. One is going to come from the design someone made. Who owns this design? Maybe the person is here, maybe not. So I'm just going to copy it and paste it here. Who owns this design? Okay. So now this was just built without auto layout. So now let's have some auto layout involvement in it. So this is a frame and the text. So first we'll convert our text to auto layout and make it Okay. This text, we need to remove the okay. So for alignment also, auto layout also helps you with alignment. So Shift A, you can see how it aligns that confirm password. You can also now manage the spacing. But let's just add everything to auto layouts. Shift A, Shift A, Shift A. So we'll just align it to. So because these two are related, we'll add them to auto layouts, manage the space, let's say 8. And this is where hierarchy now comes in, right? These two are related. Shift A. And finally, we add this. 3 of them, Shift A, align it. Okay, now let's see what the button looks like. You can see the button. Okay, the button responds. Okay, cool. So the button is a component. Let me detach it. Okay, the button was built with auto layout, and that's why it adjusted. So this button has an icon. So we can see if we put the icon, the things elements just adjust. But there's something happening. The height is also adjusting, which is not what we want for our button. Why is the height adjusting? Because it has a hog content. So we want to switch it to fixed. So once you turn on the height is supposed to stay, right? So you need to know when you are using what. In this case, we want the width to be a fill width. So that means if we're adjusting the size of these elements, we want it to still fill. We're adjusting the size of the frame. We want the how was this built? Okay, let's see. Yeah, if we're adjusting this size, we want it to stay to keep growing, right? But we don't want that with the height. We don't want that with the height. Okay, so this, okay, all of this are in an auto layout. We can add this to it. You can see it readjusted it. So we want to ensure that we are properly aligned. Okay, so we can add this to auto layout. Then we'll manage the spacing. Shift A. Now I want the spacing to be 30. That means this 30 between major elements. I can move this up a bit. Okay. Then for this, I still want it to be 30 also. Then for the input field, I want the spacing to be 16, right? Because they are more related. So that way they look like they're actually related. Then for this sign up with Google, 20. Okay, I think we are good with this. So same thing applies here. Select all of them, Shift A, right? Align it to the center. Select this two, Shift A. This and this are related, so Shift A. Align it to the center. So this helps us that, okay, if we add another, I can see if I add another box to it, everything just stays. Let's make this with hub content. Then we can now add all three, Shift A, align it to the center. So that's pretty much how we use auto layout. Then we'll go into the advanced, look at the advanced part. Now, we have all of this in an auto layout. Sorry, we have all of this and we have a card. This card is a frame, right? Now I want to transform it into an auto layout. So first, let's change the color of this card to like a grayish. Then let's bring this image in. Oh, okay. Just show me Figma AI. Oh, interesting. Okay, so let's bring this in here. Now, one way to create auto layouts. Let's say we have, which is what we've been doing. We have different elements. We can select all of them and click Shift A, right? Another way is we can even select only one and click Shift A and add others inside. You can see. So others still the same way. So that also works. So normally this is what this we can do with this page. Just create this. We can make this card an auto layout by clicking Shift A, right? And we'll adjust the picture inside, or we just even select the picture from here and click Shift A and start adding every other thing inside. I will go with this other one, Shift A. What are we adjusting? We're adjusting the horizontal width. Let's do 20. I want the height to be 20 also, at least for now. So first we want to put, let's ungroup this. I want our title to come in here. Let's change the title to black. Then we want our description. Let's change it to black. Then we have this. Let's ungroup this also. 3 badges. So let's put it inside here. Now you can see what happens because our auto layout is specified as vertical, right? All of this came in one by one. Now how can we solve for this? We can solve for this by putting them inside another auto layout of their own. So I put it in an auto layout, but nothing is happening because it is still vertical. Remember I said auto layout tries to look at what direction it is when you're applying out the auto layout. So I can now swap it to vertical. Now this button, if I put this button inside here, you can see I want this button to be at the right, but because of it is in an auto layout, it can't go to the right. Now, how can we solve for this? If you look at this part that has position at this right hand side, you will see ignore auto layouts. Now, what does this ignore auto layout means? It used to be called absolute position before. Ignore auto layout means you, even though you are in this frame, don't behave as if you have auto layout applied to you, right? So if I click ignore auto layout, it simply just ignores that and I can drag it to anywhere I want. That is option 1. Now, the challenge with this is if I'm stretching this frame, because it is also ignoring everything that has to do with the auto layout, it is also not going to respond, right? So what else can we do? First, I can group these two, Shift A. Remember, let's give it some sort of hierarchy. So let's give this. Now, I added these two into an auto layout, and I'm going to add an auto layout with these two and this. So it is vertical, so let's make it horizontal. So just to switch the way it is, simply just click on this and drag it to the side. Now remember, can simply just say auto in space. So I've added the space auto to it. So that means if I want it to be in the center, I'll put it center. If I want it to be at the bottom, I'll put it at the bottom. So any I want it to be, it will simply just adjust. So if this is increasing, it would also be increasing. Now one hack we can have for picture is that now while your picture, you can see the picture is stretching, the image is stretching. You can see stretching, which is not what we want. One hack is we can make it to fill. So whenever the image is stretching, this is responsive but not truly responsive. If we want it to be truly responsive, when we select the image, we'll turn on this constraint. That means lock aspect ratio. That means I want the height and the width to be reacting the same way. That means if it's increasing in height, it should also increase in width. And because we're in auto layout, you'll see, so you can see the container itself starts growing, because this container is hugging the content. So if the image is increasing, the container itself is increasing, right? So that is one thing we can do. Now, another thing with auto layout. Okay, let's pick this. So now let's also assume that, remember, this is just 3, but it can be 4. It can be 5, right? But let's make plenty of it. Now, it has stretched. If I drag this back here, nothing happens. So there are two things we can do with this, the way it is now. There are two things we can do with it. One, we can turn on wrap. Remember what wrap is? Wrap says if something is outside of the content, drop it down. Outside of this container space, drop it down to the next line. So if I click on wrap, I get all of them here. So they're all, so if I add more, to keep coming to the next line, right? Now, another thing we can do is in the prototype. So on prototype, because this is an auto layout frame, because it's a frame, and auto layout has that property of clip content. Clip content. Okay, let me make this page brighter so you see what was happening, and this page too brighter, so you see what was happening. So what was happening was that this card is the text is coming out of the card, right? So that was what was happening. Now, how do we ensure that this text doesn't show like this? So that's where clip content comes in. Clip content, if you see it here, pretty much just says that the content that goes outside should be cut off. So if I click on clip content, it cuts anything that is outside this auto layout frame. Now, clip content is not auto layout property is just a frame property. That means any frame, even if it is, if you click on an iPhone 16 Pro Max frame, it is still going to behave the same way. So let's say you have elements inside. You have this rectangle. So you can see this rectangle is inside this frame. But the moment you turn on, okay, let me make the rectangle black. So the moment you turn on clip content, is going to cut the other part out of it. So clip content is a frame property. Now, I was saying, that is, we've seen the first way, which is wrap. The second way is, because this is also a frame, I can tell you that, okay, what do you want to do with the items that are overflowing? That means the items that are outside this frame. I can say I want it to scroll horizontally, right? So overflow. So scroll behavior. That means what do you want to happen? How do you want it to scroll? So I want it to have an horizontal scroll. Now, what does this mean? You see, nothing happens, but when we preview, that frame, this thing can now scroll. Not an ideal. This is not the ideal thing to scroll, right? But let's assume. Cool. Let's create something simple. Let's assume this is an Instagram frame, right? And you know, Instagram frame has that picture stuff, right? Profile, yeah. Status or story. Yeah, story is the word. So we have those stories, and it's a good example for where you can apply auto layout. So let's say we have the story shift A, and I want it to be spaced by 8, and let me just duplicate Ctrl D. And because it is a frame, I can drag the edge back to where I want it to stay and clip the content. I'm going to just click on enter to select all. I want to give it image. So let me use content reel. So that's a plugin. And I want content reel to give me images. Content reel. Images. So I want it to give me random images. Okay. Oh, cool. So let's say we've had a frame here. This is an image, and we have all of this here. And what we're concerned about is this. So I will say prototype. I want it to scroll horizontal. Okay, so when I play this prototype, I now have this scrolling image. All built with auto layout. So that is, so the same way we can do this here. Finally, make this an auto layout shift A. Let's make it hub content, no padding. Okay. Okay, this is an auto layout. So how do we put this badge inside? So you can see if you put it, and I want it to be just at this top, not really in line with this. So remember, ignore auto layout, and I can simply just drag it to the top because it is ignoring the auto layout. And when it's ignoring the auto layout, it's ignoring the padding, ignoring the margin, everything. That I can even put it on top of it, on top of this, right? So it's going to ignore everything that's to do with the auto layout. Okay. So that's all